So hello everyone and welcome to another episode of my channel. Today I have something really special that I want to talk about, and it's about the German Expressionist era. So what is German Expressionism? So in the early 1920s to like the early 1930s, there was a prominent movement in the German cinema that was growing called German Expressionism. And there were quite a few movies made in that subgenre, and it all kind of stems from expressing like what you're feeling on the inside and really express it and just taking it all out and expressing it in a way that goes against everything that is realistic and natural. So yeah, it's a very special kind of visual feeling, but not all German Expressionism films look the same. It is more about a feeling. I mean, I've read a lot of books on German Expressionism, and even they can't really like pinpoint everything. They can't agree on everything. Can't really say, oh, this is 100% like totally this is the German Expressionism style, because there's a lot that goes into that, and it's more about a feeling. But of course there are a few characteristics that a lot of these movies that are included in the German Expressionism era have in common. But a lot of it is definitely visual, as you will see when I will be talking about 3 movies from this era. So when I was a little girl, I think I was 12 or 13 or something, I came by this book called 1001 Movies You Have to Watch Before You Die. I was very curiously looking through that book, going through every page, film by film. So I read about, what the films were about, when they were made, etc. before I had even seen them. And that really sparked my interest into wanting to watch these movies. And one of the movies that I happened to come across with, like one of the earliest movies, was called The Cabinet of Dr Caligari. Yes. And that film is like it is considered to be like the ultimate, most successful film of the German Expressionism era. So yeah, I saw that film and I quickly kind of fell in love with this kind of style, and I began to love watching silent films, got a huge appreciation for them, and I'm glad I started watching them at a young age. And then I just, watched every silent film that I could get my hands on, especially if they were like from the German Expressionism era. This subgenre did not last for long because filmmakers and a lot of people realized that this really isn't a like commercial genre, or that would make a lot of money and be sustainable. Unfortunately, they kind of quickly realized that with just a few movies after the success of the Cabinet of Dr Kagari. They released a few more and they just didn't respond as well as Caligari did, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because I just think that the visuals and the feeling and the vibe of this subgenre is really cool and just very pleasing to the eye. And also it just does something, like it releases something, because it is expressionism. It expresses things. It really expresses things in a surreal way. German Expressionism, have inspired a lot of modern movies, modern genres, especially the horror genre. Yeah, I mean, it has inspired a lot of directors for sure. Like Tim Burton's style is definitely a German Expressionism style, for sure. So I'm super happy. I mean, we have seen a lot of music videos being inspired by German Expressionism. We have Korn's music video for Forsaken. Yeah. and Red Hot Chili Peppers music video for Other Side. Those are heavily inspired by this era. As I said, a lot of horror movies has taken notes and a lot of things from this era, and just in the way that some movies nowadays look and the feeling. And I'm super happy that this era kind of lives on, even though it lived for a short time. But yeah, I mean, even if it kind of died down in the early 30s, it still lives on. And I'm super happy to be talking about these movies that I will be talking about in this episode. But yeah, I just really wanted to give you a quick, like, you know, this is German Expressionism. But yeah, let's move on to review number 1, which is the Cabinet of Dr Caligari. Cabinet of Dr Caligari. It's from 1920. It's directed by Robert Wiene, starring Werner Krauss, Konrad Veidt, Friedrich Feher, Lili Dagover, Hans Heinrich von Twardowski. So in this one, we have this hypnotist called Dr. Caligari, and he visits a town. He comes to town, and there's like a festival or circus or some fair, some carnival going on, and he wants to present. Oh, there's my cat. Hey, Abby. And he wants to present his object, so to say, or this fun thing that he wants everyone to see, which is his somnambulist called Caesar. And after Caligari comes to the fair, comes to town, you know, murders start happening. Very suspicious. You know, what is going on here? So that is the basic plot of Caligari. And we have to remember, this was 1920, and even though the plot may seem, I don't know, a bit simple, it wasn't simple during this era. And also, this movie was one of the first movies with a twist. So that is also pretty cool. Yeah, I have to say that, like, my favorite thing about this movie is one of the characteristics that a lot of these movies share in the German Expressionism era, and that is like the visual style of really expressing what you feel on the inside, but in a surreal way. So a lot of the sets in this movie, they are just painted on, like they have made buildings out of cardboard and just painted on lights, painted on shadows. Because I think I read, like, there was something going on with the electricity during this time, so it was very limited. So that was why the director painted on like a lot of lights just directly on the set decor. Yeah, not using like a real lighting, just painted on. And the houses are like crooked. Everything just feels a bit off, a bit surreal. And that was the point. They wanted to get away from this realistic kind of look, and that is really what makes this movie stand out in my mind, and also stand out from other movies in this era. And you know, I can understand why it is the most profitable and most successful film that has come from this era. And I just have to say that I just love watching it. I think it's in like 6 acts, and it's a silent film, but it's also like it has colors, because you know, film thingy was, you know, dipped in like blue and like yellow, like green and stuff. And they used to do this before to indicate, you know, day and night and things like that. So it wasn't just like black and white. This like has some sort of color, but yeah, but it's also, I love reading the text, the dialogue and stuff. It's very charming. And I have to say, the acting of Konrad Veidt in this one, he plays the somnambulist Caesar, and he is fantastic. He's definitely my favorite actor from this era, and I can understand why he was so popular, because he really made a lot of movies. And I just, the way he acts, the way he moves as Caesar, it's just so iconic. I mean, it is. And I love, the way they dressed him all in like this skin tight black suit, so to speak, like a leotard or something. And, his like black hair, and it all just gives his character such a definite look. And yeah, it's such a contrast to Lily Dagover, to her character and how she dresses and how she is. And in the later scenes, that will matter, and that will just make such a beautiful matchup. And yeah, whenever they are in a scene together, it's really cool looking. But then we also have like very interesting characters, like the doctor himself, the Dr. Caligari, like played by Werner Krauss. It's very interesting, and I was always interested in watching this movie because there's always something suspicious going on. I'm like, what is going on? I mean, you can kind of figure things out, but you have to remember, you have to change your mindset. This is not 2024. This is 1920. So this is 1920. I haven't probably seen a lot of movies before, and I'm watching this one. It is a weird one. It looks very unrealistic from what I've seen. So you have to, go into that mindset. And I can only imagine. I read that when this movie opened up in a theater in New York, there was actually someone who booed the film and demanded their money back. So I mean, it's not for everyone. I can understand that, and that is probably also why, this wasn't a long-lasting movement. But yeah, as I said, this movie, huge success, and I think other films really wanted to do as well, but unfortunately it didn't reach up to Caligari's level of success. But yeah, it is truly an amazing ride, and like, if you love silent films, then you have to watch this. If you don't, it can be a very hard sell, but maybe just watch it for the artistic side of it, the visions, and maybe like if you are a bit interested in German Expressionism, definitely check out this film. And I do have it on Blu-ray. Eureka released it, and I mean, you can just look by the cover that this is kind of what the film looks like. Everything's twisted, distorted, and yeah, I am always happy like rewatching this film. I've seen it many times, and I will watch it many times more because I can. Yeah, I'm just fixing my hair because it's not. Yeah, I've dyed it back to red. It's a bit longer than I've had it for a while, and yeah, I kind of like it. Yeah, the Red Queen is back. What do you think? What do I give Caligari? I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. So a 10 out of 10? Yeah, I mean, I do love this film, but I understand it's not for everyone, but that's okay. So let's move on to review number 2. Movie number 2 is called The Hands of Orlock. Yeah, and it's from 1924. It's also directed by Robert Wiene. It's also starring Conrad Veidt, Alexandra Sona, Fritz Strasny, Paul Lasconas, and Carmen Cartellieri. So in this one, we have this world-famous pianist called Paul Orlock, played by Conrad Veidt, and he unfortunately loses both his hands in an accident. So when his new hands are like grafted on, there is one thing that he doesn't know, and that is that those hands used to belong to a murderer. Yeah, so I can imagine that this movie like inspired a lot of these, evil hands, evil transplant hands things. And it is a really good story in my opinion. And also, Conrad Veidt once again plays his character amazingly. But now he doesn't have, all the theatre. But now he doesn't have all the, the craziness of the somnambulist role. This is a more toned down role for him, but it still works. He still expresses a lot, and he has just a good, memorable, intense face. I think that is really important, in the silent film era, because you're expressing so much with your eyes, with your face, since you couldn't really use your voice because it was a silent film. So you had to be so expressive, and he is, and also I think every character did a really good job. The story is very interesting in my opinion, and it gets more interesting as the film progresses. And I never lose any interest, and I do think it is a really cool idea with the hands. And we have to remember this was 100 years ago, so 1924. Yeah, so this idea pretty fresh. Yeah. And I do like a lot of the visuals. There's like one really cool scene where Conrad Veidt, he's sleeping in his bed, and then we have a huge hand and arm just reaching down for him from above and just entering right up and just coming down. And that visual is so striking, and that is what I mean with like these German Expressionism movies. The visuals are so striking and just so they express like so much and are very surreal, and that is like what I love about them. And that is also what I really like about this one, because it has a lot of memorable moments, and also the ending is really, really good in my opinion. His, Conrad Veidt's character has to deal with, having these new hands, and they aren't, he's not really getting used to them. There's something weird about them, and, he has to struggle with that, and we can really feel that struggle. Some of the scenes, just where he's looking at his hands, like I will also show you, because I also have this one. Eureka loves, restoring these and releasing them as part of their Masters of Cinema series. So yeah, this is a very cool cover. Here we have, as I said, when he's looking at his hands, a very cool moment. And I'm really glad that Eureka has released these. Yeah, always buy these. And it comes with like some extra materials and stuff, so I'm super happy. But yeah, back to the film. Yeah, good acting, good story, good visual representations, good surrealism or expressionism, and it's a good movie overall. But is it as good as The Cabinet of Dr Caligari? Let's see. I'm giving it a 8 out of 10. Yeah, so I mean, it's not as good as Caligari, but spoilers, no German Expressionist movies as good as Caligari. But also Caligari is actually my number 2 favorite movie of all time. First it's Suspiria from 1977, and then it's The Cabinet of Dr Caligari. So I mean, you can imagine the pressure every other movie that I watch has. But yeah, let's move on to review number 3. Okay, so we're now at the final review in this episode, and that is actually of the movie Der Golem. It's from 1920. There are several versions of Der Golem, but this is the one I'm talking about, the one from 1920. It's directed by Paul Wegener and Karl Bose. It's starring Paul Wegener as the Golem, and Albert Steinruck, Ernst Deutsch, and Lida Salmonova. In 16th century Prague, there's a rabbi who creates a golem. He is a giant made of clay. Using sorcery, he brings that creature to life in order to protect the Jews of Prague from persecution. So I mean, I think some of you might be familiar with the Golem stories. And yeah, so this is an adaptation of that. As I said, there are several Golem movies, and also from the silent film era, but I chose this one. It starts off with they create this giant of clay to protect the Jewish community. I do have to say that this movie is very short. It's 64 minutes, but just a little over an hour, But I have to say that it feels a bit longer. The 64 minutes. It's like, if we take those two movies I talked about, for example, there's always like something happening there, and even though they are both longer, they seem a bit shorter. Like, time passes by in a different manner when I saw those two. And I think the things that happen in the first two movies are just a tad more interesting than in this one. The moments in their Golem that just weren't that interesting to watch. A bit boring in some moments, I have to say. But not boring enough to like make this a bad movie. It just wasn't as good as the first two. The creature, or the Golem himself, played by Wegener, is an interesting character. So it's quite interesting to follow him around and how he interacts with people in the village and things like that. But something is just lacking. Like, visually, this isn't as interesting or appealing as the first two. Like, there were very few moments that I was like, wow, the visuals are it just draws me in so much. But there are a few moments. There's like a special bridge they have that they run to and from, and whenever like the Golem walks up and down things, that's quite impressive. But yeah, it's just not as striking as the first two movies, and not as, you know, Caligari, of course. The thing is good. As I said, I wish that the movie could have been just a bit more interesting in some parts. You know, in some scenes, I had a bit of a lack of interest to follow along. And, you know, in a silent film, since, you know, there is no sound dialogue, you have that the movie has to be that interesting that you want to sit down and you want to read everything and follow along. I mean, that is especially important with silent film movies. But yeah, this one, at some points I was almost like, I'm not even interested in, you know, reading the dialogue. But still, I still did enjoy some moments. So what will Der Golem get from me? I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. So 6 out of 10. I still have to, you know, remember that it's over 100 years old and have to get into that mindset. So maybe if that would have been made today with today's standards, maybe the grade would have been a bit lower. But I'm comparing it to, you know, the movies from that era. So I think that that's a fair grade. And also, I of course have Der Golem on DVD. Oh, yeah, thank you so much for watching this German Expressionism episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've seen any of these movies, please let me know in the comments below what you think about them, of course. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm so close to 2,000 subscribers and I'm so happy, and so thank you all so much. You are all amazing. If you made it this far, then you can comment a little ghost emoji just to let me know that you made it through the entire video. So thank you all so much for watching. Hope you will have an amazing week ahead and hope you're having an amazing summer. Bye.